Thanks for checking out another episode of Just the Worst Wrestling Podcast. This is episode number 3. I'm your host, Billy Donnelly, which you can find at Just the Worst Podcast, as well as on thisisinfamous.com and joeblow.com. And thanks to everybody who tuned in the past couple of episodes, starting off with our kickoff with Dean Ambrose, as well as last week when we did a post-Night of Champions reaction and analysis. Pretty big show here as we move into episode number 3. So once again, thank you for checking this one out, streaming, downloading, however it is that you got to this point. I greatly appreciate it. 2 big guests here to join us on the show this particular week. I'm going to start it off with Will Pruett of ProWrestling.net, as we're going to talk about the Divas Revolution, some problems that I have with it, some problems that he has with it, and maybe how this will put a fresh perspective on some of the troubling things that the WWE is doing in kind of positioning its next generation and next wave of female superstars. And then, after that, a big one, Jake the Snake Roberts. That's right, the inventor of the DDT, here to talk about his new film about his life and his recovery from substance abuse, the resurrection of Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake Roberts, the one and only, will be here on the show. And we're going to talk about his film, and once again, we're also going to talk some wrestling, because how can you have Jake the Snake on a show about wrestling and not talk wrestling? So, very exciting times. So, hopefully you enjoy the ride for this week and this particular show. But Will Pruett is here, and what we wanted to talk about, wrote a great column on ProWrestling.net talking about Paige's heel turn and her quote-unquote pipe bomb, everything she dropped in order to try and forward the Divas division, try to break apart maybe some of these factions, and move things now into some type of storyline with Charlotte really at the heart of it, and Paige now moving away from PCB, maybe starting something else up with the Bellas, but I guess trying to rock the boat and lend the opportunity for some type of arc, angle, storyline that encompasses the new divas who were called up from NXT into the WWE Divas Division, as well as those who have been around a while, like Natalya, Tamina, Naomi, all these other women, Alicia Fox, who are looking for a way to try and get involved on some type of tangible level, and not just that they're here and they're women and it's a revolution. So be it. So let's get to Will so we can get into his article, get into his piece, and get into what is working and what isn't working for the Divas division. Joining me on the show this week, Will Pruett of ProWrestling.net. Specifically wanted to bring him on this show. He wrote a really good piece over at the site called Revolution and Regression, talking about the current state of the Diva Revolution, and kind of took a perspective on it that I hadn't considered. I had some problems with the segment on Monday Night Raw with Paige and her heel turn. Will had some problems of a different nature, and once again, things that I hadn't considered, and when he kind of put it in perspective and laid it out, it kind of spoke to me about some of the problems I may have been having. So, Will, thanks for joining on the show, man, this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's really cool to be on.
So, the premise of your piece was, one, you have a problem with the Diva Revolution to begin with, which I don't think is unheard of. I think lots of people have had problems with the Diva Revolution ever since Stephanie McMahon dropped a hashtag and just dropped random divas in the Diva roster one night on Raw, like all in the name of catching up with Ronda Rousey and Serena Williams and all the other, female trailblazers that are out there in the athletic fields. But your premise here, dealing with the Paige promo and her heel turn, was based around the idea of setting women back from exactly where they claim they want them to be by having every single diva in some way, shape, or form attached to a male member of the superstar roster, and as a result, not allowing them to kind of stand on their own.
Yeah, exactly. I should say, I really like that Paige is a heel. I think Paige as a heel is a great thing for the division. The breakup of the PCB team is fantastic. I think that's a great direction to go in story-wise. My problem with it is, in that same segment where Paige turned heel, they defined every woman, or almost every woman on the roster, by a man. Paige, in that segment, instead of saying, Nikki and Brie Bella, you're cheaters, and we don't like that you cheat, she said, Nikki and Brie Bella, well, you slept with wrestlers to get to the top, which I don't think is true, especially in the Brie Bella sense, because I know if I wanted to get some clout in WWE, it's not Daniel Bryan's hotel room door I'd be knocking on. So there's that. Charlotte, of course, is very much defined by her father, and maybe there's no way to define her past her father.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember Ric Flair making this many NXT appearances, and I still remember Rick being pretty damn good. Or still remember Charlotte being pretty damn good and being a better character down in NXT. Lana and Summer, of course, are defined by the men that they're pseudo-feuding over, might be turning against. I have no idea where that one's going. And then you get just so much weirdness as you go down the roster, and you look and you go, wow, almost every woman is defined by a man here. Almost every woman here, aside from Paige at this point, is defined by a man. Like, that's how they've decided to paint these women, or they're not defined at all. Team BAD has been kind of missing in action for the last few weeks. I've seen basically nothing of them.
Yeah, they show up in backstage segments kind of looking on.
Yeah.
And that's about it. And even then it was weird to me while this entire thing was happening that once again they were nowhere to be seen or heard from as you're going down the roster. And maybe it's because, here you have three women who look, you have Naomi, who could be defined by a man because of her relationship, but they chose not to go down that road. Tamina, I guess you could, based off of her lineage, but I don't know that they necessarily want to go the Jimmy Snuka route right now, being where his life is. And Sasha Banks is somebody that what bus are you gonna throw her under? But I think you make an interesting point, is because, down in NXT, the only time you ever really saw Ric Flair was when she won the title, was when Charlotte won the NXT Women's Championship and he came down to celebrate. Other than that, they kind of allowed these women to be individualized. They allowed them to have their own personalities, their own thing. Whereas here, once again, everything seems to be set up by who they're connected to. Even Natalya gets thrown in there as being, well, you're just a Hart family member, as if that ultimately defines who she is and doesn't allow them to stand on their own platform and be women who are supposed to do the same thing that the men are, as far as this Diva Revolution and kind of changing the perception of what the Divas division looks like.
Yeah, that's my main issue, is it looks like they could have changed it. Like, they could do a lot of things to change it, but the way they keep presenting the women is as second fiddle to a man. Mm-hmm. A lot of men, so that they are all of their characters' personalities, all of who they are, all of their humanity is based off of men in this sense. And maybe it's funny that two guys are sitting here talking about how a storyline in wrestling isn't feminist enough. There's definitely some irony to it, but it really feels like they're almost purposefully doing it, or they just don't know better in WWE, and I'm not sure which one I believe. On top of that, we've had far too many worked shoot promos in the women's division. Mm-hmm. Like, AJ Lee did it back in 2012. We've seen some version of it ever since, where it's like, well, you're all this. I mean, how many wrestlers have taken shots at Nikki and Brie Bella for being in committed monogamous relationships with John Cena and Daniel Bryan. Like, it's been done. So to go back to this place in the women's division, it also just makes me feel like there hasn't really been any progress, that it's just like, oh, cool, so you slotted Paige in as Crazy Girl, the AJ Lee slot. Oh, I see how you move the roster around now. Good for you.
Well, see, the thing with the AJ Lee promo, which was the plug was pulled very quickly on whatever was going to develop from there. The thing with that was, at least you're talking about, I'm a wrestler, you're not. Like, it was, I'm a wrestler, you are everything else. Everything that wrestling fans would claim to have a problem with being in a wrestling company. You're here for the modeling, you're here for the reality show, you're here for whatever's going to come afterwards. I'm here to work in the ring. This didn't have that feel, because this felt once again more like catty women going after each other for catty reasons, when once again we're talking about weeks earlier where Paige is like, oh, I need a revolution, I need people up here who will help me take on the Bellas, and she gets people who down in NXT were seen as legitimate competitors, were seen to be able to carry their own storylines, multiple at a time. It wasn't just like, well, now we have 2 women and that's the only storyline we have. They had multiple women going at the same time who were able to carry something and who were able to have developed characters. Here, there are no developed characters. Once again, you kind of had a bunch of divas from NXT, a bunch of women from NXT dropped into the Divas division as if it was a wonderland, with nothing around, no bearings or compass or map whatsoever as far as like who they are, where they're going, and what they're doing here. And once again, if they're trying to change the perception from being away from drama and being more towards women are serious athletic competitors, I think they really have dropped the ball by once again their attempt to try and do something different, but once again not really knowing how to do that.
Yeah, and it's strange because the stories they tell in NXT are so simple.
Yes.
Look at the Bayley story at SummerSlam as a prime example of this. Bayley wants to be NXT Women's Champion. Bayley failed multiple times at becoming NXT Women's Champion while giving it her all. Bayley came back. She fought people that she had failed against in the past to work her way up to getting an NXT Women's Championship shot. Bayley goes in as the underdog and wins the NXT Women's Championship. And somehow that simple story, like it's a really easy story, but somehow when done well, when done with real emotion, when done perfectly, I mean, I know I'm one, and I know multiple people, it reduced them to tears as
Yes.
they watched the end of that match, because it was beautiful. Like, it was perfect. Well, okay, look at what they're doing on Raw. Well, Nikki Bella's been Divas Champion for a long time, and that's really cool, and she's got this record. And Charlotte just came in, and she kind of wants the title. She won't tell us she really wants it because they don't trust her to use words other than woo. But Charlotte kind of wants the title, and it's sort of her dream, so that's really cool. And Becky Lynch is over here, and she's got orange hair and says words sometimes. And Paige is here too, and oh, Sasha Banks just got here too. And it's like, no, you're messing up the ultimate simplistic story you could tell, and that's human wants title. Human fights to win title, human triumphs and wins, or human fails and loses. Like, It's the easiest story for wrestling to tell. And you look, that's what NXT's women's division is basically built on, is that story over and over and over. And it works, and people love it, and it's successful, and it gets people to care about matches. What they do on the main roster is try and complicate things with, yeah, well, Nikki only has the title because she's dating John Cena, and Bree's a jerk because she's dating Daniel Bryan and she does yes spots in the middle of her matches. And oh man, Sasha Banks is really good, but she's not. Like, they overcomplicate everything. They try to, and I think they'd say, well, we have to tell stories here. And it's like, no, you don't get it. You need to get out of the way of the natural stories that will develop.
Well, see, and the thing with the Bayley story is that it is an exact carbon copy of the Sami Zayn story.
Oh, right down to beating everyone.
You know, of Sami Zayn's rise to the NXT Championship. It is the exact same thing. And yet, even in recognizing that, telling the same story again, just with different participants, the emotion of how well the story is told with the simplicity sucks you right in to the point where you don't even care.
Yeah.
And that to me is what I find, frustrating with what they do sometimes is if you tell the same story again, you could tell the same story up and down the roster with everyone, and it probably wouldn't matter to people, because if they get lost in it, they don't go, wait, isn't this kind of like the other thing? Like, you may recognize it, but you don't give a shit because you're in it. You're in it already. So by the time it happens, you're like, oh, well, I'm along for the ride. I'm in too deep, whatever.
Yeah.
And yet they can't seem to understand that. And, you bring up the overcomplication. I think that's also one of the things that continue to be a problem, especially with them trying to formulate this new Diva division, is the overcomplication and overtelling of the story. Stephanie McMahon shows up and drops these women in the Divas roster and has to overcomplicate why they're here and over-explain why they're here to the point like that with so many words coming at you, you just wind up tuning out. You're like, I don't care, they're here, whatever. And then you continue to have that. You have the Charlotte Paige match. Charlotte and Nikki Bella match for the title on Monday Night Raw. Twin Magic fails. They put the belt on Charlotte, and then who comes out? Stephanie McMahon comes out to once again over-explain everything that's happening via one person. Paige drops this heel turn, and once again, one person has to now explain why all of these pieces are moving, and rather than show you anything, they want to tell you everything, which is a far less convincing way to tell a story to anyone.
Absolutely, and I've kind of pitched this before with the whole, like, if you were to scrap all the way back to the Divas Revolution beginning, pre-SummerSlam, when in July when Stephanie introduced these three women, what if, Nikki comes out, cuts a promo, says, hey, I've beat everybody. I have, I've climbed every mountain. I've conquered everyone in this division. Stephanie comes out and says, you know what, you're right. You've had that belt for a long time. We definitely see that. What we're going to do is we're going to have a tournament. We're going to have, these 5 main roster women, and then I'm going to introduce into this tournament and to the main roster these 3 women from NXT. And you do an 8-woman tournament for a shot at, for a shot at Nikki Bella's title at SummerSlam, or for a shot at Nikki Bella's title at Night of Champions, whatever, because you can do the finals at SummerSlam. And you make it something where you, as these women get singles matches, you show video packages on them before they come out. You show, especially with the 3 new women, you show them training, you show these moments that they've had in NXT, and you teach fans who they are as characters in a meaningful way, where they're fighting for something that matters. It restructures the division as being around the title, and I just think it would be a better and more linear story to tell than what WWE is currently telling with the women. It's not the perfect idea, but it's something, and I think it's a lot better than, well, there are gonna be 3 factions.
Well, even right now, you still get the sense that you don't know who very many of these people are, unless you are an NXT watcher. And let's face it, look, they went to Brooklyn, they sold out the Barclays Center. So, but once again, we're talking about New York. Okay, we're still talking about a concentrated effort as far as who's going out there to watch it. You and I were out there in San Jose, and we saw that amazing crowd, which was at that point their biggest crowd. And but once again, these were hardcore fans. The casual person, and I have this conversation all the time with hardcore wrestling fans and people who are in the know, who don't understand the fact that the casual wrestling watcher doesn't watch all of that programming. They watch Raw, probably, and that might be it. Like, that might be the only wrestling they're exposed to all week long. They're not tuning in for SmackDown. They're not tuning in for NXT. They're not tuning in for Superstars or the main event. They have the network because for the pay-per-views it's convenient, and they might flip around there if they're bored and catch some stuff, maybe the podcasts or anything like that. But they're not diving into all of these hours of programming in order to learn anything, not to learn anything, but to be exposed to the larger wrestling content. And as a result, when you take these women and you just drop them here, they're unknown to a large segment of their audience, and then they're not really doing anything to make sure that changes, to make sure that people are aware of who they are or what they're capable of or where they came from or what they could possibly do. Instead, it's the same thing that, they had when they would take somebody like Ava Marie and just drop her here. Oh, it's a redhead. Okay, but what does she do? Nobody's telling me anything, so how am I supposed to connect on any level with them?
It's actually a common mistake they've made with the NXT stars, too, is they often drop them in the main roster without really introducing them the way they did in NXT. You look, Emma, I think, is the prime example of this. Emma was super over in NXT. The bubbles were over, the dance was over, but she didn't start off that way. She wasn't over the first time she walked out. It took a lot of time for her to get over. It took, vignettes. It took developing this character. And on Raw, she shows up. 1 week, she's holding a sign that says Evolution in the crowd. The next, she's teaming with Santino Marella. And then she's walking to the ring and popping bubbles and doing this weird dance. And I think it showed. And yes, this was a little while ago. So it's sort of different in that fans watching were like, who the heck is this? And maybe now fans are more aware of the NXT women, but not ultra aware. Like, they still hadn't. I mean, Charlotte was the only one of those women who had been on Raw before, and she had been on Raw to lose in 3 minutes to Natty.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like every fan is going out of their way. I mean, even I'd say NXT would be stunningly successful if 1 million people a week were watching it. 3 to 4 million people a week watch Raw. So you're talking about a quarter of the audience, like of your TV watching audience, and that would be like NXT at a crazy successful level of that many people watching it. So maybe a fourth of the people watching it know who these women are. That's still not enough. Like, that's still not really going to help you. You can't assume that your audience has this knowledge from a show other than your main content delivery platform, and that is Raw. Like, everything needs to be on Raw. Like, they need to be telling these stories. They need to be rolling these video packages. It's one thing to say they were in NXT and they were great there, but you actually need to show us them being great on the main roster as well. And and by great, I don't mean, well, let's have a competitive work rate match. I mean, Charlotte should beat someone in 2 minutes. Nikki, or, Nikki should too, but Charlotte should. Sasha should. Becky should. Like, they should have had matches to show themselves off, show their movesets off, just show who they are as individual personalities in and out of the ring.
See, one of the things that I really dug about the piece, going back, which you can check out on ProWrestling.net, Revolution and Regression, is that everybody was dazzled by this idea of a Paige pipe bomb. Everybody, anytime that we roll out this pipe bomb type of delivery, everybody right away goes, oh, that was amazing, without ever taking into account, like, why it was done, what was said, and what it is that it accomplished. For me, coming out of this entire segment, this entire promo, was, once again, like I said, you kind of put some of it in perspective as far as, like, the feminist angle of it. But to me, it was also like, here is somebody on the roster who has now taken something they have built up over, or tried to build up over the previous weeks, and literally buried everyone who's involved in it. To call Becky Lynch irrelevant, it's not a cheap shot, because it's a real shot at Becky Lynch and how they booked Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, no one knows who Becky Lynch is. Becky Lynch is barely even to get a match, let alone promo time. So Becky Lynch right now literally just looks like the woman with the steampunk goggles and the orange hair who's ringside. And as a result, nobody knows what she does. Charlotte's now the Divas champion, and I think that people still have no idea who she is other than the fact that she's Ric Flair's daughter. And once again, they roll these things out for shock value. Oh, well, we'll have them go out and we'll have them kind of cut this shoot type promo and we'll get really real on everybody and people will look at it and they'll be amazed by it because, don't you remember the CM Punk thing years ago and how everybody took off and went running with that? And as a result, there's damage that winds up being done to the Divas division as a result, because while you may be trying to tell a story now with this Paige heel turn, at what cost did it come to everyone else in order to try and forward that?
Yes, exactly. It's tearing down every other character in the division in favor of trying to forward one, and I'm just not sure how successful it's going to be. The characters don't have a large place to fall, and I just think in a few weeks people are going to be complaining again about how the story's bad or about how it makes no sense, how it's been mishandled, and it's sad. They have a lot of talent on that roster. I thought they had talent on the roster before calling up the NXT women, and then you stock it with these women who have shown the ability to have amazing really, really good matches down in NXT, and it kind of makes you go, okay, well, why isn't that happening here? And the only reason I can think of is just main roster booking and storytelling doesn't allow for the kind of emotional investment that those matches require.
Well, let me ask you one final question, and then I'll let you get out of here. Do you have any shred of confidence whatsoever that they can somehow right this ship and make the Divas count and put them in meaningful and emotionally investing stories that anyone can get into beyond the surface level?
I still remain confident that they can. I don't think they've ruined everything. I think as each week goes by, my confidence dwindles a little bit, but they have some really good pieces there. They have people who have told these stories before. They have people who know how to, and I want to see in 6 months where they're at. What match are we building to for WrestleMania? What's the women's match that we're focused on for WrestleMania? What is that going to be? What stories are they telling there? And I kind of hope that once they get over this strange introductory period for all of these women, and they're just able to book the Revolution, or book not the Revolution, the division, as a division, and also quit just branding the hell out of it as, oh, it's a Diva Revolution. It's like, no, it's women wrestling. Like, calm down until it feels revolutionary. That was one of the magical things about NXT, is that what they did there is they did it and no one noticed for the longest time.
Until it was done.
Yeah, they were having better matches. Suddenly women could main event shows, and you were going like, and then finally you went, wait, whoa, this is this is awesome. Like, they're doing really well down there. And then everyone started paying attention, but it's like, don't call it a revolution till it's a revolution, till something has changed. But that's also not WWE's style, because they like to tell you things are happening without actually showing you them happening. So I am confident that the division will be in a better place than it was in soon, probably in about 6 months, but I'm also not confident that it will be at the level that the NXT Women's Division has been at for the last few months. And on that note, I don't know how confident I am that the NXT Women's Division is going to be super amazing in the 6-7 months from now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes down to the talent and what the talent, the opportunities the talent are given. And, it all becomes cyclical. We had a special group of women down in NXT who have now been cycled up. They're trying to build another crop down there who can kind of carry on that legacy. But let's face it, it's not going to be the same. They're going to be different. They're going to have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. And it's up to both them and the audience to kind of adapt and change expectations a little bit and give them the benefit of the doubt and let them do their own thing and hopefully once again surprise us and give us something really good to watch.
Yeah, I hope we do get something really good to watch. it's the thing where you can't have that much talent in a division, always against each other for so long and have them do nothing. Like, I just, I think the law of wrestling is when you put that many talented people together, eventually you're going to get something awesome. And I hope that's true, and that it doesn't turn into like the TNA that disproves that point every chance they get.
Actually, one more thing before I let you go. I know you had some pushback on the column that you wrote about the Diva Revolution. And it was strange to me because there seems to be this, hatred is even a strange word to use in this regard, but there seems to be a reluctance just to accept any sort of progress in a Diva division, as well as criticizing it in any way that might result in something positive. Were you surprised kind of at the response you got to your piece?
I was surprised the first time I wrote something like this and got, hate mail is an overused term by people who write things, and got angry emails from sad people that said like, oh, well, women don't deserve to wrestle, that were grumpy like that, or like, well, Brie would look good in my kitchen, and it's like, no, she wouldn't. She'd make you gross healthy food that you wouldn't want to eat, bro. Like, let's get real. So I was surprised then, and I am surprised at some of the things people say on social media, or willing to, email publicly to someone, just because and I'm a fairly progressive dude, and I look at a lot of those. I look at those and I'm like, this is so ridiculously awful. Like, I would be embarrassed to say this to anyone, let alone say it on public and social media, or just randomly email something like that to someone. And it always surprises me when I get offensive things, like the person who emailed me that certain women only have certain jobs in the company because of their ability to do certain things to certain men. Hey, I cleaned that up nicely. People emailing things like that, and I got one that was really, this one did shock me. It said that's the only reason, doing, let's say, certain things to certain men, that's the only reason women get ahead anyways, in real life or in wrestling. And that always shocks me, but there's stupid people out there. There are really stupid people out there, as that demonstrates. And what makes me saddest about it is, you and I both know the common misconceptions about wrestling fans, and the kind of what some of the general public will sometimes think wrestling fans are. And
yes,
that matches up really well with that. And I always try to, and this is going to sound really pretentious, so forgive me, but I always try to rise above what the public conception of a wrestling fan is. And most of that is just because I think that wrestling fans in general are great people. I think that I've met some of the coolest people at wrestling shows, shared some red vines with them. I've met some really fantastic people in and around wrestling. Like, it's one of my favorite things. You and I were talking before we started recording about WrestleMania weekend, and how in some cities it just feels like you can walk anywhere, go into a bar, and sit down and talk with people. And it's one of the coolest things. Like, it's this really fun communal experience, and wrestling is that to me. Like, the wrestling community is that. And I then see people like this who say these things, and I go, God, please don't forward that misconception, because that's all it is a misconception. Wrestling fans are the coolest, and more people should know that.
No, absolutely. There's nothing like going out wearing a wrestling shirt and having someone be like, hey, is that a Macho Man shirt? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, high five. and it's a bond that can only be shared between certain people. Not everybody's going to get it, but when you do get those moments, they are pretty cool. And I agree. There are always certain people. It is the worst kind of wrestling fan that leads people to have those misconceptions and those judgments. And all we can do is continue to try and work against them for our benefit and for the benefit of the thing we love. Will Pruett, ProWrestling.net. Make sure you check out Pruett's Pause every single week, as well as this particular column from last week, Revolution and Regression, talking about the Diva Revolution. Well, a pleasure, man. Thank you very much for taking time out on the West Coast of your early morning to join me on the show this week.
Thanks so much for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much. Really interesting stuff to think about as far as the Divas division is concerned. And you know I'm a fan. Huge Sasha Banks mark. Big into Becky Lynch. Big into Charlotte. I defend Nikki Bella like crazy. Always have seen the potential in Alicia Fox. So this isn't coming from somebody who's just hating on the Divas division. This is somebody that has been actively hoping to see more of what NXT has done be brought up to the main roster. And I don't want to see it fail. I want to see it do well. But I think there's some interesting criticism there to look at and hope that the WWE can turn things around and allow these women to stand on their own, to actually have a Divas division that is a division in and of itself and doesn't need to be built around all of these women having some type of identity that only exists as a result of the male WWE superstars. So make sure you check out that article. It's really good, and we'll keep an eye on the Divas division in the coming weeks in the hopes that some type of progress is made for the good of the Divas division, so we don't have to keep having these conversations about how could they possibly get this thing so wrong. All right, let's move on to the main event. He is the inventor of the DDT. He used to be the companion of such reptiles as Damien and Lucifer. He has done many things inside the squared circle that are probably etched into your memory for the terrifying moments they brought to your childhood. And he is an underdog who has truly found some type of success story in his life, overcoming years and years of substance abuse and alcoholism in order to live now a clean and sober path. He is the subject of a new documentary, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, and he is one of the all-time greats in professional wrestling history, Jake the Snake Roberts.
Hello.
Hey, Jake. How are you? Good morning.
Yeah, okay. I'll go with that.
It's morning alone. How about that?
Yeah. I'm in lovely Halifax.
Well, thank you very much, man, for taking the time. Oh, well, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. So I guess let's start off with what I think is the most important thing right now, which is your sobriety. How long, as of today, have you been clean?
Over 3.5 years.
Congratulations.
No shit, man. I mean, gosh, sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Because in the beginning, it was such a struggle, and and every day is just consumed by not doing that, and now there's so much freedom, and I feel so good about myself, and I'm not thinking about it constantly, and I'm having to shore up the defenses or anything, it's pretty much second nature now. I don't have to think about it. And to live life sober is a whole new experience for me. I mean, life is so much different when you're sober, and joy is on every corner, and freedom is there, and the police aren't knocking on your doors, and it's a much cool thing. I like it.
Well, you had over years, this you had tried at different times to kind of kick the habits. Whether it was rehab or faith, different tactics along the way that you thought might help, and none of them seemed to take hold. What this time was kind of behind your desire to change? Because it seemed like every time you wanted to change, but the addiction kicks in and it makes it that much harder. But this time, in talking to Dallas, it seemed like there was a real strong willingness to put in the work, to do what was necessary, and for some reason this time took hold. So, I mean, was it being older? Was it maybe mortality sense kicking in? Like what was it this time?
I don't think so. I think the big thing this time was, unlike the other times, when you go to rehab, you go into a place for 4 months, okay? And you sit in the classroom and you nod, you raise your hands, and you play the game. And after you've done 2 or 3 rehabs, you pretty much got it memorized, But here's one thing rehab doesn't deal with. When you come out of rehab, you're thrust back into your crap. Whether it's an ex-wife that now wants 4 months of child support, or the people you got your property with, they're wanting their money, and this person wants their money, and you're dropped right back into the frying pan. And with Dallas, it wasn't like that. He got me back up on my feet. He nudged me along, and showed me how to take care of my business and start taking care of my obligations and stuff. And he showed me how to run my life. When you're a drug addict and an alcoholic, the only thing that you're really working at is taking care of your addiction. I've never really taken care of life's duties. Not very well, because there was always a problem around every corner. So to teach me all that, to teach me how to be on time, teach me how to do the right thing, and how to speak to people, because I was having to learn all these things, man, how to deal with an ex-wife without snapping and going out and getting drunk and blowing her off, I had to learn a new way. So, not to have doing that alone, when you go to rehab, like I said, you drop back into the frying pan and all of a sudden sizzle burn, boom, you're out using again. I mean, that's just the way it is. So to stay there for 3 years, and I was actually at the house for 2 years, but to stay there for 2 years and get on my feet, really get on my feet, and start being successful. Success, man, makes you feel good about yourself. Once I started feeling good about myself, everything was easier. There was a time up until about 2 years ago, I didn't like me at all. And when you don't like yourself, man, that's just a recipe for disaster, because you don't give a damn about nothing.
Well, one of the other, the things in being in the house and having accountability for everything is, starting new habits, and the addiction is clearly a habit. Every day, it becomes. Every day it's a thing, and it's there, and you're doing it because it's something that's always been done. And what I found, especially in watching the film, was starting the new habits. Getting up, doing the yoga, getting up, taking the pill, getting up, and making it so that there are other options that become habitual.
Choices, man.
That's right.
Absolutely, making the right choices, and that's what life's about, isn't it? Making the right choices. I didn't have any idea it was this easy. Because really, it is easy once you just let go. Bottom line, when I moved into Dallas' house, he said, "Look, dude, why don't you let me drive your fucking car for a while?" Sorry about the language.
No, go for
it. For a while.
No, go for it.
Great. Good. Let me drive your fucking car for a while, because you're doing a piss poor job of it. You keep wrecking the son of a bitch. So bottom line is, I had to let go. And control is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And he started, really, the big thing that he really helped me on was shame. I was so ashamed of myself and disgusted with myself and hated myself so much, it was going to be pretty hard to do anything. So he started working on things, you know. I mean, he stopped me from putting myself down all the time. You know, he said, dude, quit talking like that. You know, dude, don't wear those T-shirts. They're negative. They have a negative message. You know, just one of my favorite T-shirts was "Wasted Youth." It said, you know, well, that's negative, man. Why don't you put on something with a smiley face? Well, I don't have anything with a smiley face. Somebody went out and got me some smiley face crap. And then he got me a T-shirt that I come up with an idea, and my idea was my history will not be my destiny. And I started wearing those. And I really noticed the difference in the way I felt about myself just by what I wore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's pretty weird, but it's true.
Well, in letting go, trust is obviously a big deal because when you have this support system built around you, you have to trust in them in giving up that control. Trust that they're going to help you do the right thing without, skepticism and kind of distrusting human nature seeping in. Where like, oh, do they have ulterior motives? Is there something? Is somebody out to screw me?
That's the addiction talking there. You know, I mean, that's what addiction does. It tells you everybody's out to kill you or rip you off or shit on you, and sometimes you have things that in your past, like a bullshit movie called Beyond the Mat, where they raped you and lied to you and set you up and ripped you off and screwed you over and screwed your family over too. And now all of a sudden I'm going to do another movie. Are you serious? That was really big for me, man. Because Beyond the Mat was such a lie, and they set me up for all sorts of silly shit, and then turned around and turned into something really ugly. So to even start this project was big. But I think it was because I was at the end of my life. You know, you go back to the getting older thing. I don't know if it's so much getting older. It was just the fact that I was so damn tired, man. I was sick of myself. And I did not think I had much time left on this planet because I wasn't trying to survive anymore, you know. And that's sad, but it's true.
Going back to, the history is not going to be my destiny, which is a big mantra and a big key for this. In taking in a lot of what was going on in the house and doing the yoga, starting the program and whatnot, physically you're doing things that are helping you feel better, and that, just in doing the exercise, doing things that keep you active, that alone is going to kind of take care of itself. But the mental and psychological part of it also seemed to be a big thing in turning a corner for you to make that progress. You talk a lot about, things that happened in the past, whether it was your dad or in the business or feeling invalidated. How difficult was it to really kind of come to terms with a lot of this? And, like you said, not necessarily letting go, I guess, but forgiving and trying to move on from that as opposed to remaining a prisoner of that.
Yeah, that was huge. And again, that was the process with Dallas. Getting in my head and saying, dude, you gotta forgive yourself, number one. And sometimes I did a lot of time in front of a mirror just talking to myself, man. And, once you start doing good things and you can present them to people that you love, whether it be your kids or your parents or whatever, and once you start doing positive things and living positive and living with a future, start feeling good about yourself. Once you start feeling good about yourself, it's much easier to forgive yourself. It really is. I mean, when you're in the throes of addiction, you're not going to forgive yourself because you're still right there in it, and the more time that I got clean and sober, the better I felt about myself. And the better I feel about myself, it's much easier to deal with the past, because I can put it behind me. I'm not still living that moment, and it's free life now, man. I told Dallas, one of the big things in the crib was I couldn't believe it when it happened. I started dreaming again, man. I hadn't dreamed a good dream in years, and I remember waking up that morning, man, going, wow, I can dream again. I feel good, and I like it. You know, I like dreaming, man. I like having positive thoughts and thinking about tomorrow. You know, I mean, I've got so much going on in my life right now, man. I'm busier now than I was when I was with the WWF. You know, and I mean, it's crazy, man. I'm fixing to go out on a project, man, that can change the whole face of wrestling. There's a new company being started, and I'm a big part of it. Real big. It's going to be in Vegas, and there's a lot of top talent going to be there, and we're going back old school wrestling, and we're going to try to take the bull by the horns, man, and make a positive impact, not only on wrestling, but on the way people think, you know, and going back to the good versus evil instead of being just a bunch of damn guys out there doing senseless crap, which is the way I feel these days, not what I see on television. We want to take it back to something simple, something positive, and bring it back to the people.
Well,
and that starts in November.
Well, I'm eager to see this because you know, one of the things that everybody had always said along the way is, you know, and complimented was your mind and your grasp on the business.
Right.
You know, your intellect for it, your feel for it, your understanding of the psychology of it. You know, how when you're doing these struggles and you know you have this talent and this gift, how difficult is that to know that you're not able to use it to the full of its capacity?
Well, it was always very frustrating. I mean, when Vince McMahon set me down and told me, he says, you know, I'm not scared of any man, but I'm scared of your mind. Oh, that's a pretty good compliment. And I just know that it's so crazy because I look at other people like, you guys say I'm brilliant, all this stuff, but really I'm just doing it the right way, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
And these things come, the thought process naturally to me. I didn't have to think about this. I don't get why I get frustrated because I don't see why other people don't see it the same way that I see it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that gets me in trouble because I voice my opinion. Like, what the fuck are you thinking about, asshole? Damn it! You know, what are you messing with wrestling for? When it's really simple. You know, and I'm so lucky that these people that I'm getting involved with, man, are pretty much saying, "Here's the range. You guide us." You know, it's what a freaking opportunity. You know, I mean, for a gentleman to drop 50 or 60 million into this project tells me he's got some confidence. That feels pretty damn good. And for him to give me health care, which is going to take care of my body, and, you know, the cancer issues and the other problems that my body is going through. I got to have hip replacement in November. All these things, man. And this guy's saying, here, take this and go with it, man. And it's so unfortunate that Roddy Piper was supposed to be involved in this too. Of course, we lost Roddy.
Yeah.
And I'll be taking up some of the things that Roddy was supposed to be doing, which was color commentary and a couple other things for this new company. But yeah, it'll be happening starting in November, man. We're going to take, there's 8 coaches that are going to take 64 wrestlers and start a new company. And these coaches will school these guys on going back to the old school ways. So get ready to see some hair pulling, some tights being pulled, and get ready to see a match where the good guy can throw the first punch.
Well, there is a lost art to a lot of that. You know, as you said, we have shied away from that. You know, heels aren't heels so much anymore. You know, there are very few heels who are pure heels anymore, rather than
no, there are no heels. There are no baby faces anymore. Everybody does the same crap, and none of them do it right. My God, I mean, less is more. You know, let me ask you a question. If I go out in the ring and I hit you with 5 clotheslines, who's tough, me or you? Neither one. We're both lying pieces of crap. Bottom line, that's the truth. You just destroyed your own credibility. And if I can hit you with clotheslines and you didn't get up, I'm in the wrong damn business.
Yeah, it's true.
And we go, and we destroy our credibility with our fans. Once you do that, you've lost them forever. You know, it's sort of like, I mean, I've used this a million times. It's sort of like if you and I out and have a few cocktails or whatever, and next thing you know, I hook you up with a bitch and you wind up sleeping with her. And the next morning you wake up and you really feel bad because you've been married for 25 years. You never cheated on your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go to her and you tell her what happened, you know, because you feel so bad and you want her to know, you know, baby, I never cheated on you on our whole relationship, but I fucked up last night. Think she believes you? No, she doesn't believe you. She knows that you've cheated more than once. She knows that you're a dick, and she knows that you're never going to be trusted again. That's destroying your credibility, and that's what we do with our wrestling fans. We go out and we do stupid stuff that means nothing, jumping through tables, and buildings are on fire, and shoving up this guy's keister, and he gets back up, and I hit him with a sledgehammer. Oh my God, and he got back up. Are you serious? We're asking these people who pay money to accept what we're giving them and feel good about it. Actually, they're going, dude, you're trying to feed me this line of shit that nobody believes in. See, you got me going now.
and you know what? And that's, I think that's also an addiction. Like it's an addiction for the wrestling fan that
Sure.
that you've watched it for so long out of out of fandom that it becomes an obligation. It becomes a habit rather than something that you're watching because you want to or out of enjoyment. I mean, where do you think that that things went awry? Like where, I mean, it's hard to kind of point to a particular moment and say, that was it. But, in looking kind of over the last, let's say 20 years or so, which is where you start to see the transitioning, where do you start to see those changes coming in and why, I guess, did they go away from the simplicity and more towards over explaining to the point of ridiculousness?
It happened in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is that, when they came with all that crap for the ECW stuff, and it was just senseless, it was desperate people doing desperate things. They were trying to stick, they were trying to hang with Vince, and try to keep their company and the like, make money for these guys. And the only way that they thought they could do it was by going out there and literally killing each other, and barbed wire and baseball bats and all this stuff. And bottom line, what it was is they were lazy and they didn't know their arm, so they took a cheap way of doing it. We call it, back in the day, we call that cheap heat. Mm-hmm. When you go out and take a shortcut because you don't want to get in the ring and do the actual work. The bad part about it, the whole situation, was when McMahon took over wrestling and started making these small territories out of business. And he took all the talent that was available and ran it through that machine in New York. And, of course, he fed every top guy there was. And they tried to build new ones. But it's hard to make chicken soup out of chicken shit. Mm-hmm. You go back to those old territories, and the guy would go in there and wrestle. He had to learn his art because he was going to wrestle in the same cities every week. You couldn't go out and do the same shtick. You couldn't go out and do the same 3 or 4 moves, which was what the guys got into doing in the WWE because they were touring the country. You wrestle Hogan one time all the way around. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's done. So they take their little sideshow stuff and throw it out there and chew it up and spit it out, and then they'd feed Hogan to somebody else. Well, at the end of the day, you wind up having no talent left, don't you?
Yeah, because there's no development.
There is there's no development.
Yeah.
There's no small territories where these guys had to go in and do the same towns every week and actually learn their art. Wrestling is a freaking art, man. It's done right. You know, I can't forget what great. I think it was what the hell? That damn guy's name played Godfather. What was his name? Come on. No, the old man. Come on, Godfather. Who was Godfather? Who was the Godfather?
Oh, Marlon Brando?
Marlon Brando.
Yeah,
Marlon Brando said the greatest actors in the world are wrestlers. Why? Because they don't get a chance to have a second take. That's true.
It is true.
In the old days. Now they go out and they, you know, my God, I never went out and practiced a friggin' match of my life.
Mm.
So, I don't think I ever practiced a move. Unless it was in the ring during a match. What happens is you start going out into the ring and you practice all this stuff, and pretty soon that's what it looks like. Practice crap. There's no flow to it. There's no rhythm to it. There's no love in it. You know, I can't imagine memorizing a match. I just can't, man. I mean, my God, are you serious? I mean, nowadays I go out and I wrestle some of these guys, and they'll say, okay, I want to do this. I say, yeah, fine, okay, no problem. Let's do it just like that, no problem. I go out in the ring, I do right the opposite. And these guys are lost. They are scared to death because they have no clue on how to do their friggin' job, man. And that's sad.
It is. And as a fan, it's sad to hear that, you know, and to watch it because what happens is it starts to feel regurgitated as opposed to organic.
The fans are disgusted with it, man.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the athlete do? The athlete has to do more bizarre shit, and it's going through tables or jumping over the top rope or into the fifth row just to get the fans' attention.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my friend, we're going to take you back that old way where you can grab a headlock and have a damn match.
I love it.
And trust me, people will love it. People want it. People want to feel like they can do it.
I love it.
All right.
I'm
What's the
psyched.
next question? I'll shut up.
No, God, listen, I can talk. I love it. Like you said, I've been a huge fan of Jake the Snake Roberts since my early days of wrestling, being a fan. So talking wrestling with you.
haven't been locked up yet?
Yeah. So talking.
He's a big fan of mine. He hasn't been locked up. Okay.
So talking wrestling with you
right,
is a privilege, man. I mean, because you know.
But, you know, everybody needs to get out and see this movie, man, because there's a lot happening in this thing, man, and it's going to help more people.
No,
it really, really is.
I absolutely agree because of the fact that, you know, it's a comeback story, and everybody loves a comeback story. Everybody loves a comeback story.
It's the first reality show that's ever been done. You know, all this other crap that you see is all scheduled and, you know, prompt stuff, man. This is the real deal, and there's a real guy doing it, and I don't think there's too many people out there that would have stripped themselves down like I did and let you see what's going on in me.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't easy, and you know, I still have a problem watching the flick because I don't like that guy I see on television. He just, you know, he's ugly, man. He's bad.
Yeah. Well, there's a vulnerability.
I challenge anybody to come out and watch it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. I'm a baby cloth, man, and I'm getting raped. Somebody help me. You know, it's all there. So everybody, I want everybody to come out. I've got to get off this phone because it's about to go dead.
Okay.
So, any last questions? real quick, because phone's about to die.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the crowdfunding campaign, because here you needed the crowdfunding campaign to fix your shoulder. Because you needed you needed to repair it. It was in bad shape, and you go on crowdfunding to raise the funds, and fans and people who knew came out and with love and support to help make this happen. Did that kind of put things in perspective for you?
That was probably the turning point of me getting better. Scott Hall said it best. He says, Jake, our fans love us more than we love ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that was so right. When the people came out and put that money up, man, I was blown away. I remember going into my bedroom and just crying because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Because, see, all those years of the addiction lying to me, saying nobody loves you, they don't really know you. If they knew you, they would hate you. That's what the addiction did to me. It lied to me constantly. You're not worthy of love. You're not worthy of anything. You're a piece of shit. You've let everybody down. Nobody cares. Okay, it's pretty easy to hate yourself now. You're a loser. Nobody's going to help you. Are you serious? You're a drunk. You're a crackhead. You think somebody's going to get you 10 grand? No, they give it to me. They give it to me in less than 24 hours. It blew me away. I mean, it humbled me, man. I was on my knees, just completely at a loss of words. That's pretty big for Jake Roberts.
I mean, what do you attribute that to? Because there's fandoms of all kinds, but there's a very special bond that exists between wrestling fans and wrestlers.
I think real wrestling fans love real wrestlers. Okay, mm-hmm. Wrestling fans are the greatest fans in the world, and I think one of the reasons they're the best fans is because they've watched how many matches, and they've watched guys go out and gut themselves out, man. They've watched guys go out and cripple themselves. They know, real fans really know what we put into it. But they also love the great entertainers. Mm-hmm. They love to be satisfied. I mean, why not? They had the right to be satisfied. They put up money every week in the old days to go to New Orleans downtown and sit there and live through that, man. Watch those wars go on. Whether it be Junkyard Dog and the Freebirds or Jake the Snake Roberts and the Grappler, and they watched all these things happen, and they know what's involved. I think that they see my phone for the first time when I ask for help and for money. They're like, "Oh my God, we can get something back to Jake. Mm-hmm. We can help Jake, because you know what? We'd like to see that old Jake back." So, for them to come up with that, for them to come up with over $100 grand for Scott for his hip, mm-hmm. was just, it was really huge on making us realize what we have. Mm-hmm. That we do have people that still love us and care for us. And they gave us confidence, man. They gave us confidence to go out there and go back on the road and start doing signings and stuff, because it was hard at first to go out and do signings, man, because of the shame, and it was hard. It was hard to get work at first because nobody wanted to hire you because they didn't think you were going to show up anyway. Yeah. Or if you did show up, what kind of condition are you going to be in? I mean, still to this day, there are promoters that'll question, are you going to be okay? Yeah, I'm fucking fine, man. I'm doing great. Mm-hmm. It's tough because, when you're an addict, there's always that opportunity for something to happen. And you really got to be careful. And Scott and I both learned the hard way that you got to make sure that you got your ducks in a row when you go out on the road, man, because, you're alone, or if you're not alone, you're still having to deal with a lot of memories, man. I mean, one of the big triggers used to be walking through an airport, because you walk through an airport, you're miserable because you're having to fly somewhere and the flight's late, and then guess what? You pass a bar, and everybody in that bar is having a good damn time. Well, gee, why don't I go in there? Well, because we can't.
Yeah.
We just can't do it.
How big was it for you to, I guess, feel validation within the industry with the Cauliflower Club as well as the Hall of Fame, and even showing up on Raw that time?
Yeah, that was all great moments, man. And to look out there at Steamboat and to, Cauliflower Island is just really big. I mean, that's my guys. They're kind of tipping their cup for me, you know, and it's just, in the Hall of Fame. I mean, again, it's just, I didn't think that would ever happen because of the things that I'd said and done. All right, bro, I got to get off this phone. I'm sorry, but we got to get off of here.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the time. A pleasure. Right. We'll have to do it again sometime. And congratulations, man. All right, thank you.
Yeah, get ready for my book. My book's coming out soon, too, so look out for that.
I'll be eyeing out for it.
All right, bro.
All right, man. Take it easy. Wow. That was an honor and a privilege and something truly amazing that, as a long-time, lifelong wrestling fan, I will be able to tell people about from now until whenever. That I got a chance to talk to Jake the Snake Roberts, a clean and sober Jake the Snake Roberts, a Jake the Snake Roberts who still has an impeccable mind for the business of professional wrestling, and a Jake the Snake Roberts that is looking to get back in the industry with a little bit of an old school flavor and perhaps do some great things that can once again entertain us. My thanks to Jake the Snake Roberts as well as Will Pruett of ProWrestling.net for a fantastic show this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And be sure to stay tuned until the next one comes up. So make sure you follow along on Twitter at JTW Podcast. You can get all your information there as far as new shows that are coming up. Also along on Facebook, facebook.com/JustTheWorstPodcast. You can follow me there, facebook.com/BillyTheKid. Kid with 2 D's at the end. Also on Twitter, you can get me there at InfamousKid for everything that's coming up, both on this podcast and the other podcasts we got going. Make sure you check me out at JoeBlow.com as well as thisisinfamous.com. And we'll be back next week. Got another good one on tap. Diamond Dallas Paige will be joining us for episode number 4. But until then, well, you're just going to have to listen to this one until you're tired of it, because it is a good one. And once again, thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Billy Donnelly. Hope you have a good week. Enjoy some wrestling. We'll be back next week for episode number 4. But for right now, episode number 3 is in the books. I'm out. Peace. Just the Worst Wrestling Podcast, episode number 1, has been a presentation of Just the Worst Podcast Media.